Uncontrollables. Outrageous? Sometimes. Thoughtful? Maybe. Offensive? Probably. Fabulous? Always.
All right, this is episode 22 of the Uncontrollables, and this week we're doing something very, very special. Hopefully it works out and doesn't turn into an absolute crock of shit. And it's actually, a good quality because I'm not going to actually check the quality before we actually get around to editing and finishing it up, so I won't have a chance to redo it, so here goes nothing. Right today, we're doing Skype. I have only two people that volunteered to be on it. I'm not saying that's a bad thing against them, but that's what we got, and so we're doing Skype. I have two people on Skype. I'm on Skype right now. I've got a microphone shoved into a lamp on my desk, and I think we're good to go. I feel like a Rush Limbaugh, 30 years ago. I don't have a golden mic yet. I have my two little computer screens. I feel pretty good about it, but with us this week is we have Layla, who is, if any of you have been following Creating Maya, she is on Creating Maya as one of the contributors on there. She was the first one, hopefully not the last. And she's on with us today from Jacksonville, Florida. How you doing?
Duval. That's where we're at. How you doing?
All right, and then we also have Brittany Cadwell, who is a activist / mom / Brittany, what are you?
What am I?
What are you? Are you what's
me?
Well, okay, you're an individual. We've got that. Now, what do you do for a living if you want to share with us?
I'm an exotic entertainer.
So am I.
So we're on video chat. Why are you wearing clothes? And I just noticed that we are all wearing black, so that's awesome. Why do we hate black people? I don't know.
See, that proves it, because this is brown. We're not all black.
Okay, well, you brown people. Make cupcakes, not war. Okay, there we go. We have a make cupcakes, not war shirt. I'll one day figure out how to record all this shit, and you guys can watch the video of it, too. Not today. I don't care enough. All right, so what we're going to talk about today, whatever the hell we feel like. I don't have any subjects really picked up. I did make a little tiny rant on the Chris Christie bullshit statement he made not too long ago, and also a little bit about the military and how some things are working there. There's some new interesting things going on with the military, and it's kind of pissing me off. So, first things first is I don't know if my two guests here have followed this. I doubt they're the political I am, but Chris Christie opened his big, literally fat mouth the other day, just this past week, and the main quote that everyone's throwing around is as follows. This strain of libertarianism that's going through both parties right now, making big headlines, I think, is a very dangerous thought, Christie said, saying that basically that libertarianism is bad. Now, my problem is that he said libertarians who criticize the National Security Agency's domestic spying operation were dangerous because such criticisms inhibit the federal government's ability to stop terrorism. And he points to Rand Paul as an example. Rand Paul is not a goddamn libertarian. He's not. He says so as himself, and he is borderline libertarian-leaning conservative. I mean, he's basically a neocon. He really is. He loves war. He loves killing brown people. He loves God being in law. He thinks faggots being allowed to get married is going to lead to bestiality. I mean, do we really want to call that guy a libertarian? But Chris Christie really gets into this, and he just goes, he's saying that if you question the government spying on its own citizens, you are dangerous, that it's dangerous to have that in politics. Well, God damn it, isn't that why we have politicians to protect us from the government? That's the whole idea. That's why all you stupid motherfuckers out there vote. Everyone else says, people like Justin Mamash and everything else, and his little bail failed. And it was basically to restrict how much the NSA can watch us, record us, listen in on us. Well, really? Really? That's your big thing, is that everyone loves Justin Amash because he's going to limit. He's putting a Band-Aid on an amputated limb. This is like, that kid from the Boston bombing that had his leg blown off? That's basically Justin Amash coming in and go, hey, let's put a Band-Aid on that. Yeah, that's good. Awesome. I'm awesome. Vote for me. Liberty. Yeah. it's an absolute crock of shit. It really is, because he gets into this and says all this stuff, and people are like, oh my God, Rand Paul, this, that. The fact that the NSA exists, the fact that the DHS still exists, and the FBI is a rogue organization, the CIA is a rogue organization, those are issues that need solved. Not this, how many phones can they tap? How can they tap phones? No. If you're going to do something, go back and remove the initial problem. Obamacare. You want to fix Obamacare? Get the government out of our goddamn health care. So, I just spouted off about a lot of different subjects. Let's go back to the original one. You two are libertarians in a very simple sense. I know you've helped around with the Libertarian Party a little bit, Brittany, when you still lived in India. I know you helped a little bit with the Rupert for Governor campaign. Layla, I know based on the post you like and the comments you make and the things you share that you are a libertarian. What do you think of Chris Christie, a governor, coming out and saying that it's dangerous for people to question the government spying on its own citizens?
Well, that's exactly what a totalitarian society wants, is somebody to rep for them, right?
Right.
Okay, well, when you got situations like back when Nixon was in office and he was impeached for wiretapping a hotel room, and now that we have this organization repeating the same thing but on a global scale, nobody's batting their eyes. And the responses that you get from certain types is that, oh, well, it was enacted by a previous organization or the administration with Bush, but then that does not give the Democratic organization the right to be able to dip into that cookie jar and still be able to take from the same batch. You know what I'm saying? It's that brand of totalitarianism is slowly seeping into the country that people witnessed back in World War II with Nazi Germany taking over. I mean, this is just the beginning stages of it, is not?
It very much seems just about like the rise, and I hate to break Godwin's law and already bring up Nazis, and we'll continue bringing up Nazis after you did only like 9 minutes into the show, but it is very much like the rise of any totalitarian government. We bring up the Nazis so much because it's a very well-documented case of it that is much more comparable to our situation here than, say, like a Cuban rise or Brazilian or something like that. Is because we're not nearly as relatable to those countries as we are, say, to 1920s, 30s Germany. But the rise of Nazis is very similar to what's been happening in this country just over the last 100 years. Instead of a 10, 20-year period, it's been slow but steady, and it just shows that government power corrupts and it grows. But, Brittany, what do you think about Chris Christie saying that carrying about and railing against the government spying on citizens is dangerous?
I think it's fucking retarded. That's what it is. And Layla pretty much took the words right out of my mouth.
All right, so we can concur that Chris Christie is a moron, and anyone that thinks like him should either go on a diet or eat enough to die.
He should face palm himself with his government office.
Well, let's hope he no longer has an office to be in because they no longer exist. That's my goal, anyways. I'm gonna move on from that because I feel more rants coming on, and I really don't want to keep ranting on this first Skyping podcast show thingy we're doing. So the next main subject, I think this is a little bit one that maybe we can hop into a little bit more, at least me and Layla here. Brittany, not so much, but we'll see. Is that the first thing I want to bring up is that Army is bringing a new uniform. It's a unisex uniform. It's an alternative. Now, it's made more for a woman's frame. It's a little bit cinched in at the waist. It's got bigger, booty area. It's got slender shoulders. Yeah, there we go. There's the word. Because I remember being in the military, and the girls looked god-awful in their BDUs. They didn't fit well. You'll remember this. And I remember my ex-wife had a very, very hourglass frame and a very large, wide ass. It was great, but she had like a 23-inch waist. So things didn't fit, so her ass literally like pushed the boundary to these things. So she had to go and take all her uniforms and get them like custom fitted, and she had to go buy these brand new big BDUs and have them like taken in and everything else, and it was kind of retarded. She ended up looking really good in them, but that's besides the point. But so they're coming out with this because the military is getting ready to start allowing women into any role, basically allowing women everywhere in the military. I mean, on the front lines, infantry, everything they can possibly want to go try out for, they're going to go try out for. So they're kind of moving this new this uniform alternate, the ACU-A, for basically women or maybe smaller men, because I know there are some men that don't have normal body shape. So
you think that the A stands for androgynous?
it's alternate. It's alternate. But it androgynous it could be, or asexual. Who knows? Let's see where they go with this. But so that's an interesting thing that they're allowing women everywhere. They're now allowing faggots in the military. For anybody that's first listening here, I use faggots when I'm talking about government and homosexuals. It's an offensive thing. It's to draw attention to the subject and who we're talking about. Don't worry about it. It's not offensive. I don't care about gay people. Wait, that came out wrong. So, moving on. So they're trying to do this with all these women and everything else. What do you guys think? I know, Layla, you were briefly in the military. I was in the military. Brittany, you're kind of a little gangster soldier, so you've kind of been in a sort of military of sorts, the anonymous Occupy military. Starting with Brittany, what do you think about allowing women in previously male-dominated roles in, downrange in combat situations, maybe the Navy SEALs, the PJs? What do you think about that?
Honestly, I'm not quite sure about that. We, not too long ago at my work, we actually discussed this because we have an ex-military woman, and she's not too happy with it, actually. She thinks it's stupid. I personally think they shouldn't be allowed.
Why?
Because of all the risks.
What are the risks for a woman being downrange like that?
All kinds of things, man. The risk of just everything. Sorry, I'm dealing with a little personal.
Oh, come on. Be here with us right now. So what are name me a couple examples. What are the dangers of a woman being downrange?
Define downrange for me.
Forward deployed.
Deployed into a war type situation.
On the front lines.
Okay. See, that's a better term for it.
Downrange doesn't necessarily mean on the front lines. It just means that you're in that combat situation where that what your deployment status has put you there for is a mission to help somebody, whether they're in a famine or natural disaster situation they've gone through, or they're having unrest within their people. But as far as the front lines go with women there, I can see the point which she would make as far as there being risks, but at the same time, look at some of the Bull Dyke women out there. They're very masculine. They're very strong. They're very strong-willed. No man in the right mind is even going to attempt to rape her, because, I mean, let's be honest, she's hell of a lot bigger and a hell of a lot stronger than some of the men in that position in the first place. Now, when I was in the military, I was stationed right alongside infantry and field artillery and military police, and these roles were just as dangerous as people taking a simple convoy from, military base occupation to another military base, whether it's from Fallujah, Iraq to Baghdad, or somewhere out in Afghanistan to another one of their bases. So I think you need to have women more trained to be in those situations. Because if you have a pencil pusher or a supply clerk and she barely qualified on her M16, yeah, she may not be very well or very good up in the front lines. But if you have the girl that's testing expert marksman and she's very combat minded and oriented and she's very on point with situational awareness, there should be no reason why she's any more of a risk than the men out there, in my personal opinion.
Now, I've seen some issues where you have testosterone-driven retarded men in the military. You put a woman downrange. Imagine this. I mean, there's 1 in 6 people. 1 in 6 soldiers is a woman. So there's a decent ratio there, as far as that career field goes. Now, there's another 14,000 positions they're not allowed to fill based on their gender, but you get white knights. If nobody knows what that term is, basically a guy that goes out of his way with no information to protect or stand up for a woman he thinks is being attacked, blah, 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 blah. There's issues with that, and I've heard of issues with that, where the guys act outside of a normal scope around women. Because a woman's there. Imagine if a woman gets hurt, all the guys freak out. Oh, my God, we have to protect the woman. Then you've also got the issue with sex. When I was in the military, I was security forces, and I never went downrange, but I knew 2 different groups that went downrange. Each one took 3 women. Both different groups had 1 woman come back because she got pregnant downrange, doing things she obviously shouldn't have been doing, and they never found out who the father was. So there's issue with that. Is that an acceptable risk? Not saying that all women are the same or we should punish women because of that, but it's combat. The military, as you know, isn't a place where you have, freedoms. There's no equality. If you're the biggest, strongest, you're in this job. If you're not as big and strong as these people, you can't make that job. Not saying women can't be as strong or as stronger than men, but are we going to start seeing suits against the military or women bitching about not being allowed in? Not because they're a woman or anything else, but because they just can't reach the standards. Women are genetically usually weaker than men. When you're talking about a combat thing, yeah, there's going to be some strong women. Are they going to meet the rigid, the strict standards set for some of these positions? If they don't, are they going to bitch about it? Are we opening ourselves up for a lot of issues in the military that we don't need to have by doing this?
Well, I'll put a point in there for that then. I think every major transition within a society is going to go through a period of time where it's going to arise a lot more problems than it should, and then that will then arise issues to be solved. So I think with this introduction of women into those combat forces, more frontline position style jobs, you're going to see a lot of issues. Yes, you're going to have an increase in women getting pregnant downrange. You'll have an increase in rapes possibly. Or you may have an increase in dumbasses that think, like you said, with the white knight complex, where she gets hurt because she twists her ankle and he goes on a shooting spree because he thinks she got shot down. Well, it's not as violent of a situation over there as it was originally. So it's not as important of an issue to worry about, but it still is a big issue. But when you change society in such a way, like you said, with the military that's mostly male driven, you're still going to find women that are going to be able to meet these standards. And that's the whole point of the training process, is to get them in there and to test them to see if they're capable. If they are capable, have at it. Go do the job. You know what you're getting yourself into. If you're not capable, that's what they have a reclass for. Sorry, you didn't make it. You can cut the mustard. You're going to be a supply clerk. Simple as that.
Okay. I mean, I'm to the point where I don't think we should be downrange in the places we are, and I think if you want to fight for this country, you should be allowed to fight for this country. Not that I agree with the existence of the military in the first place, but with all these things said, we go into the next thing. The headline of this article, and it kind of deals with the warrior princess that she just released her book and came out publicly. But it's troops wanted, transgender need not apply. What? Mm-hmm. We're not allowing. We're starting to open up women to be downrange. Everything else, we're allowing faggots in the military and all the implications that could possibly bring. None. But with women being downrange and everything else, they're still not allowing transgender service members or people that end up becoming transgender during service are removed from service. And some of the reasoning is that if you're going through hormones, well, you can't be downrange and take your meds. Going through transition, you've got up to 2 years of a very varied mental state, and you've got issues there. Blah, 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 blah. And they give out a lot of reasons that are just kind of iffy on that. I mean, if you're not mentally competent, you can't be a soldier. But to assume because you're transgender you can't be mentally competent, that's an issue. And I know there's plenty of people that take pills and have prescription and everything else downrange. It's not like we can't do that stuff. Maybe you just can't be on the absolute front lines out there with the Navy SEALs and the snipers sitting on the ground for 6 months. But you could still serve. And they talk about the emotional bit where you get really emotional. You might not have everything really good, and you're changing. What's the difference between a woman hitting her period every month? What's different from an older woman maybe hitting menopause early? Well, you've got a lot of older women in the National Guard. Then what about the fact that a woman gets pregnant? She can still be around for a couple months before she has to start going on light duty. What's the difference between her mental state?
I don't think there is any difference. And as a matter of fact, with a lot of these medical conditions that people are bringing more into the mainstream, attention, stuff like schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and depression, and it's not just some person that's making up excuses to get a lighter duty. Some people have serious cases of these things, and they're still allowing them not only to be in the military, but to be downrange. If these people are capable to do it, they know what they need to do to handle it. They have the psychiatric staff. They have the medical staff to take care of these things. They do even have pharmacies on most of the COBs, FOBs, and bases out overseas. So it's not like they can't handle the load. It's just something new they don't want to have to put themselves through currently.
Well,
they're already implementing women into combat. Why are we going to also try to throw in the transgenders as well? We have to figure out the women in combat first. And you've been in the military too, so you do know the knuckleheadedness of changing procedure and SOP.
Very, very much so. But if it's a simple thing, it's like I remember, they give people all kinds of drugs in the military, antidepressants and shit. But if they're doing women and they're doing gays, what's the far-fetchedness or the real big change if they're going to the gender-neutral standards for everything, for all jobs in the military? 16,000 new jobs going gender-neutral. Why does it matter if you maybe have an odd gender? Like
maybe
transgender.
Okay,
but
then
a special forces, an officer with special forces background said the military considers it a mental disease, and I'm not so sure they're wrong. Saying that even the DSM-5 came out and said it's not a mental disorder. It's not. I know plenty of people that have different issues or mental issues or whatever else have served just fine. I mean, we want people with mental issues to join the military because you're being told to kill someone randomly that you never will know. You'll never really know the reason why you're killing them. You just know you got to kill them. So why does it matter if we have someone that's transgender in there? I mean, like I said, if you're not mentally competent, you can't serve. What does maybe some different genital bits have to worry about and everything?
Well, that's what my point is, and it doesn't. But maybe they're trying to set up an environment where it's conducive that they can introduce that. If you've heard words out of Joe Biden, which I don't like the guy at all, so don't credit me for that. But he says transgender is the civil rights issue of our time. We're still kind of making it a mainstream issue to where people can see it on a day-to-day basis. It started really in 2010 with like Dancing to the Stars with Chaz, or with Lana Wachowski coming out, or with the Miss USA pageant. These were really big things that people weren't even allowing them into civilian, aspects of life and mainstream popularity. Well, the military is going to be just as much in the news. So what do we want to do? Do we want to put a trans woman, we'll start with a trans man. Do we want to make a trans man a infantry, and then as they're out in their mission, one of them or somebody on the squad who happens to be a bigot doesn't realize it, finds out, and then you're dealing with an issue downrange. And I personally think that we do have to test out the capabilities of our normal citizenry on how they're going to handle transgender people before we throw them in a position where there's people around on all sides with guns, because we already see the murder rate of them increasing already. We see the violence rate increasing against them already. So what's the point in putting them in a position where there's even more violence and even more weapons, life-taking weapons?
Okay.
And until unstableness.
Okay. Brittany, what do you think?
I'm at a loss for words, honestly. Just listening.
Just have it out there, isn't it? No, it's an interesting thing to think about is that why are we restricting anybody from serving in the military? Now, so far we've gone through this show and people are going to kind of wonder what the hell's going on here. I don't agree with the military, its existence, or anything else there around it, or the existence of a government. But this is just a discussion to have about maybe some different things and think about things in a different way. Like you were saying with transgender icons coming up in a more positive light in society, it's okay, I guess, that they're getting more popular and everything else like that. But it's not really. There's still weird people. Chaz Bono, Layla, or what? No, what's her name? The Wachowski brother, the director.
Lana Wachowski.
Lana's weird. That lady is weird. She was weird before she came out as trans. Though those two guys, the brother and sister couple there, they're very weird. You've got a lot of really eccentric people coming out as trans, and it's like, god damn it, can't we just have some normal run of the mill? Then you got a Navy SEAL coming out as trans.
It just shows that we're capable of doing the things that people think we're not capable of. That's all that does.
Well, yeah, there is that. I mean, but these are extraordinary cases, extraordinary people. When the transgender issue is not an extraordinary thing. It's normal, down to earth. It's not all that uncommon.
It's just a personal change in one person's life, and maybe just the people around them that may have known them beforehand.
So
if you get introduced to a trans person after they transition, how much of their life has really affected you? It really hasn't. You just see them as who they are now.
That is very true. Now, for everybody around me, as I'm transitioning, that's a whole other story. That's why we have the other podcast, Creating Maya, which now that I can do Skyping, I can have people come and guest on that too. Yay! By the way, for everybody listening, it is creatingmaya.com. There is a way to subscribe to the feed, to the podcast, Creating Maya, and to the podcast, The Uncontrollables, which you're listening to right now on Indiana Talks. Also look up Indiana Talks on indianatalks.com. Find him on Facebook. Find Gary Snyder. Like his page, like his show. Tell him he's a douchebag and he needs to finally fix his Facebook settings. Random spiel in the middle of the show for no reason because it feels nifty. Okay, so this with the military. Now, take it one step further. Do you think the government has any need for gender? Should the government know, and we'll start with you, Brittany, because you're sitting there just like bugging out. Do you think the government has any business knowing what your gender is, and should it actually affect any decision the government makes what your gender is?
Absolutely not.
So do you think that would pretty much fix a whole bunch of civil rights issues if they just didn't know what gender you were?
Gender shouldn't matter if you're capable of doing what everybody else is. Why should it matter?
But isn't there gender disparity when it comes to women and their wages? And shouldn't the government be stepping in and protecting women and punishing men harder for being sexist pigs and everything else?
Oh my goodness.
I don't know if she knows how to answer your questions.
I honestly don't know how to answer that last part.
So, do you think the government has a role in protecting wage disparity and sexism in society?
No, I think that's a social flaw.
So do you think people should just be screwed and left out to die until they figure out a way to fix it? Are you saying the free market fixes everything?
No, I'm not saying the free market fixes anything. I'm just saying that if they have their foot in it, they're going to dictate everything that you do, from whether what alarm clock you use to wake up in the morning or.
You missed all the boobs, John. We were showing off boobages.
Oh no, I was looking at Brittany the whole time. That's why I didn't have my mic on yet.
Yeah, just fap.
I promise it was broken.
Why'd you break it? We got to use it later.
You posting these podcasts on Reddit?
I haven't been posting a goddamn thing on Reddit because they hate me. I want other people to post it on Reddit.
Everybody hates everybody there. You just have to be a more popular hated person.
I try.
And you do a very good job of that on Facebook, so,
1,600 haters and counting. We've got like 130 subscribers, so it's like, let's see here. I've got 1,627 friends and 121 followers. I don't know how that happened. Okay, so let's get back to maybe on point. John, we were talking about the Army coming out with unisex uniforms to open up all the 14,000 something odd restricted positions to women. And then we were talking about transgender troops and if they can or why they can't serve, things like that. And you are currently in the Marines, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And are you in a combat position at all or a restricted field?
Not even close.
What are you? You're like a finance troop, aren't you?
No, I'm a freaking. I'm an air traffic control communications tech.
Oh, you're a bitch.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not a real military job. I mean, what the fuck?
Nah.
Okay, so we'll go back with to the very first thing. Is do you see an issue with allowing women to serve in forward combat positions?
I actually do, and one of the primary concerns I had is white knighting. The complex that most egotistical males have, where if anything bad happens to a female, they lose their composure, lose their minds, and go crazy because they think they're this hero.
And we did bring that up. I mean, do you think that currently is sort of an issue with something? I've seen it with the security forces when they forward deploy to a lot of places and they do take females. Do you think that will change itself? Do you think the military allowing women into combat positions will help change society, or do you think this will be a growing issue? And then on the flip side, that women basically hating the idea that they're being white knighted.
I actually have a female troop in my shop who is. She's actually done the security forces, and she's gone out there and, I mean, it's called getting some. She's gone out there and actually, fought the good fight or whatever. And she actually ran into an instance where there was rounds coming down range at her, and she ended up almost stabbing this other Marine because instead of allowing her to join in the fight, he jumped on top of her to shield her. I don't think that's something we're ever going to be able to break, no matter how hard the topic is forced.
We broke segregation with blacks and whites in schools and concerts and other things like this. I do believe that it's just a hurdle of sorts that people will have to jump over as a society.
But is it too big of a place to do it? Combat's a very unnatural, very out there thing.
Well, that's what you just said. It's very unnatural. So why bring nature into it?
Look at the story of Jessica Lynch.
I would.
Well, Jessica Lynch is a bad example, and I want to smack her across her mouth.
But that's going to be the argument that the other side is going to have for you is girls like Jessica Lynch.
Well, that's true, but I mean, we're not going to ever enter these instances and cases if we don't actually try to figure out what we can do with it. I mean, there's other countries.
Yeah, Skype just crashed on me. That's wonderful. Okay, there we go. Okay, I don't know what happened, but Skype was like, hey, fuck you. So where were we at? Is talking about... All right, so for the first time ever, we're on Skype, and it crashed on us. So we're going to have to restart our conversation since there's a lag in how this is the flow of conversation. It's John Ferguson's fault because he crashed it. All right, so with white and anything else, but we were talking about, is it a valid reason for... is it a valid place to experiment with this new social construct of allowing women in combat positions where the whole mentality, the whole idea behind combat and everything else is not it's not like normal society? Is this a place we should be trying to prove equality and everything else, and in a place it's not natural? And how is that going to could that carry over, and how would it carry over into regular society with women and men equality? John?
I do think it's a valid playground to test the theory, because you're already functioning in an environment where the people who are in there, or who are in the military, DoD service members, have already subjected themselves to various pokes, prods, and torturous things. I mean, just in the form of boot camp and being what language can I use here? F***ed with on a daily basis.
Yeah, not that.
Okay, messed with on a daily basis.
Most anything except the F word, and I get away with a lot of stuff. So
okay, all right, but I think that it would be a valid environment to test it in, because the guinea pigs have already been electrocuted so many friggin' times. I mean, we expect the worst of those who command us.
Okay, so then I guess it kind of goes on to the next thing: is what about transgender soldiers? Do you think there's a valid reason to continue keeping transgender people barred from service?
No, not at all.
You don't think
Never
that's a
was.
transition period where your emotions are kind of crazy and you might be in an awkward mental state, an issue to keep you out of the military?
I think if you're stable enough to pass the exact same test that I did back when I was 18, then you're stable enough to be where I am.
I agree as well. And as a matter of fact, the only thing I'd interject with that process is if we're going to allow the transgender community to incorporate themselves into the military, they should probably use like a discretionary tactic on when they bring you in. Because if you have bad teeth, they're not going to let you sign up until you get the dental work done. If you have, if you're pregnant, they're going to not let you go through basic training until you've delivered your child. If you have braces, you have to complete that before you get them removed before you can join. So in that case, you should have a certain period of time in which you get your hormones balanced and get your thought processes balanced before you enter the military. And all that takes is a meeting with a gender therapist.
And that's basically the exact same thing. That it's the same stipulation the same rules and regs could be easily applied to transgender people wanting to join the military. Is basically what we're coming to, is that there's really zero reason to bar transgender people from the military. Now, John, what about
bigotry? Of course,
what
bigotry
about
is still a reason?
Well, the fear of bigotry and what bigots will do is never a good excuse for anything except how to carry a gun. But, John, with as far as people, I didn't get a whole lot of experience with, deployments and everything else like that. What about, do they send people downrange with prescriptions?
Yeah, we had all sorts of people over there on pills. There were nobody deployed who had an actual standing mental illness that made them unstable or not able to pull a trigger. But if they developed one while we were there, we had a Marine who developed one while he was there. We didn't get him medicated. We just stole his firing pin.
Oh, well, there you go. I mean, well, and transgender, being transgender with identity, a gender identity issue, it's no longer classified as a mental disorder, and it never should have been in the first place. But that would be like saying that women have mental disorders 1 week a month. It's like
that actually used to be a mental disorder. Was a woman's menstrual cycle.
Oh,
Every time
that is
menstrual
true.
cycle that she was in a incomplete mental status.
So it's also been proven that men have a hormonal menstrual cycle.
Well, in that case, then hormones basically the same thing.
So we
But
shouldn't
again,
have a military anymore.
your-
No more
your hormones is a
military.
period- I think your hormones is a period of time in which you're going through a teenage puberty, and they make you go beyond your puberty cycle before you can join the military. Typically, yes, you're hitting it between 12 and 16 years old, and you're ending it around your 18 to 20s. So that's the tail end in which, yes, that's okay to allow you in. Yes, you still got immature children. Yes, you still got religious fanatics. Yes, you got all these crazy-minded people who make it through the initial battery of tests. But that's what the whole process of basic training and advanced individual training, or whatever your individual service identifies those classes as, is a weeding out process. Yes, you made it through the initial physical and the questions. Now we have to make sure that you're even military material. And if you can pass the same test that everybody else is, there should be no reason to disbar you. Not to give you a chance to at least prove yourself, because you could have a transgender hero.
That makes sense. I mean, I would like to see transgender people continue to be barred from the military so that all the other cisgender people get killed and die, and then we take over the world. Just a little fantasy of mine. I mean, who wouldn't want a whole bunch of trannies running around, take over the world? Trannies be the norm. Could you imagine how great sex would be everywhere? John's face right now.
Like,
John's face. Oh my God. I just want to, for any of the listeners out there, I know I only have about 60 subscribers right now on iTunes. I probably about to have 150 to 200 listeners a week, over a month per each episode. But just imagine, if you will, you don't know everybody on here. We're all one day going to be in the same place in the same room with a locked door, low dim lights, and Barry Manilow playing, and it's going to be awesome. So, just a mental image for anybody out there that might know any of the people on here, especially just me, because I am awesome and everyone wants to fantasize about me. Okay, John, we haven't talked in a little while, and you're military. You're out in California. What's something big that you've heard about recently? Some recent political news that you might want to bring up and see what everybody's opinion is.
Recent political news. I don't know. If I had to pick something, it'd be the idiocy of candidate Wiener, but it's kind of beside the point and not really a heavy-hitting topic.
Hey, well, okay, I can turn that into something. That's my job as a host. You say something, silly or stupid or off the wall, and I turn it into something we can talk about. So, when it comes to politicians, should we hold them to a much, much, much higher standard, far above and beyond normalcy for holding office in their personal lives? Does it really matter what a politician does in their personal lives if they're sending naked pictures to people, which I don't think should be a crime or an issue in the first place? But should we hold politicians to such a grandiose set of rules? Brittany, what was that?
I said I'm not sure about that one.
I mean, do you think we should, basically only have Olympians as politicians?
No.
No.
I don't have an opinion on Olympians other than they proved that you can be a pot smoker and still achieve greatness. Thank you, Michael Phelps.
John, do you think we should hold them to some super high social standard?
Not at all. I would far prefer a level-headed deviant to someone who just bold-faced lies to me and hides things.
The perfect answer. I like the idea of a little bit of a sketchy past politician. I think the idea of, hey, this kid used to sell pot. I think he wrecked 4 cars by running them off the road when he was racing on the street. I want to hire this person. They'll pass great laws when it comes to speed limits and shit.
Look at felons in work. If you ask a lot of employers that religiously hire felons for employment, they do that because these people have seen what life is like with no opportunity, and so they're more willing to work hard and stick with it on a year-to-year basis, and they're not going to have to worry about them as often. So yes, maybe somebody that's gone to the thick of things may have learned lessons that somebody who was able to hide all the shenanigans they pulled and squeak into office. We all know Obama smoked pot. He said he did it. He said he inhaled it, and that wasn't that the point. Well, if he had gotten caught with a fucking bag in his pocket, or sorry about the word, fucking bag in his pocket, he had never made it to the presidency. Absolutely not.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
But then that brings up another point with Weiner trying to get back into office somewhere, and that other little shitbag that is cheating on his wife with somebody in South America. I mean, I'd cheat on my wife with a girl in Brazil. I mean, it's Brazilian girls. I mean, hello. Badunk-a-dunk. Oh, okay. I'm getting off track again. But with these politicians, they're constantly in office. These people spend their entire lives in an office of some sort. So maybe it's time to let Weiner go. And all these other politicians, actually, how about everyone that's elected right now is out of office? We completely replace it. You know, what would people think?
100% across the board wipeout scale, yeah.
Everybody, every appointed position, say like the top 5 positions for every organization gets completely just redone. We get rid of everybody. It would be awesome because it would never recoup. It would never recover from that. But I always had the idea that it would be really awesome to do a random selection for elections. You just literally, somebody randomly in District 5 for Congress, if you meet the qualifications of age, literacy, and you're not brain dead or currently on antidepressants or something, that you can be picked for office, just like jury duty, just randomly, you're done. And then you don't have a choice. You have to serve a 4-year term as a congressman. Booyah! So unless you're pregnant or have kids, then you can opt out. But you can opt out, not be opted out. You can opt out. Just saying that if you don't want to leave your kids for 4 years, you don't have to. It's okay. We understand crazy mamas and they're separated from the kids. They'd be going to war with everybody.
You don't do that already.
So no, it'd be more. It'd be like I don't know. But so do you think that would be a good way to do our government? Is just have people randomly picked for office? Layla?
Actually, I do think it's a very good way to do it. There's a lot of processes that you'll have to go through, like you said, literacy and age, and I don't think it should be so much as national status, because you're also going to have an organization of people that's going to be there watchdogging to make sure that you're not pulling any behind closed door shenanigans. So you pick a random gang member who hasn't officially announced his affiliation with them, and now he's trying to hook up the Bloods with some new gats, if you know what I'm saying. So
why not? That would be awesome.
Social unrest, absolutely.
John?
I think it would. It sounds amazing in theory, but in practice, you pass that literacy rate, you pass whatever the standards you set, and then you get that idiot in office who hates Mexicans or black people or something, and it's still not legal to shoot him.
Well, actually, I'll have a point on that. You go through jury selection, like Maya was saying. Like, jury selection is how you would pick these people. You'd have to go through the same process. You can't make it onto a jury if you can't prove you're completely impartial. So either you're an absolutely good liar, which you'll be caught out eventually anyways, and make a simpler removal from office process, because all they have to do is go to the next jury member that was selected.
So you're saying we should elect a panel of say like 10, 15, 20 people or something, a large number,
like a college.
Yes, we can have like a board that goes through and picks the CEOs. Yes, for every district, We set up 10 districts in the state of Indiana, and there's each 10 districts has a 20 member board that picks. This is horrible. I want anarchy. Burn the government down.
I gotta throw this out there.
A several-member panel would work out. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but it's just a quick point. Because, like we were saying, like I was saying earlier, with the watchdogging, you now have a group of people that will prevent a individual from trying to take control of certain things, like Maya was bringing up, whether they had racist intentions or anti-religious intentions, or against another type or form of group of people, that they wouldn't be able to go through that action without the approval of the others. But go ahead,
John.
The only thing that I had to throw in there real quick, especially after your last outburst there, Maya, I am a U.S. Marine. However, statements made and claims implied do not represent that of the Marine Corps or the DOD.
You know what? Hey, Adam Kokesh was kicked out of the military for protesting in uniform. So go figure. Remember, kiddos, when you join the military,
a month left. I'm not rolling that dice.
No. Maybe if you break your knee or something, you can get medically discharged. And you're an air traffic controller. That's what your job's going to be. Indianapolis, I think, is actually hiring for those.
So you want them to lean against the window and fall out of the tower, twist his...
I'm not a controller. I'm a technician. They break my stuff.
Okay, well, they're hiring here probably because idiots in Indiana break shit all the time. Come on, you can come work here. You got to come back to Indiana, John. You have to.
Well, as it stands now,
destruction needs to be fixed too.
I'm looking at the possibility of a gig somewhere sunny and 75 year round. We'll leave it at that.
With all the insects and the bugs. Look, Layla lives in Jacksonville, Florida. Tell John how bad it is there. It's horrible, right?
Don't ever make the mistake of setting foot in this city. It sucks here.
No,
you'll never get out alive.
Well, here's my point. If you want to live down here, get you that nice little air conditioner, climatized unit that you like, and build it into some form of spacesuit, because you're not going to be able to survive.
No, I love the temperature. I'm talking about the people.
The people here suck.
See, it's
temperature's amazing.
It's where you move. It's always about the people. And I'm in Indianapolis, so that's all you really need to know. Is I'm in Indianapolis, so everyone should move here because I'm here. If you need a job, and then Brittany's moving back, so we have big boobs, we have uber small boobs on me, and they're getting bigger. Someone needs to send me $5,000 to $10,000. Remember this. Anyone listening, I need money for boobs. Remember, send me
just
money.
Send her a plane ticket to the Philippines. And
I'm not going to the Philippines. That's not going to happen. Okay.
They have American doctors and very good hospitals there. They just charge a hell of a lot less.
Oh, that's true. So somebody sent me $5,000, and I'll get a $10,000 boob job in the Philippines. So whoever donates money to this cause will get a proportionate amount of fun and or pictures from them. So if you donate $5,000, you have free reign on doing whatever you want with said boobs for as long as for 5,000 days. Time on that is contingent upon Emily allowing you to do this. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap up because I think I'm gonna have really fun editing this. This is gonna be really fun. I have a giant list of all the things I need to edit out. So this was our first Skype episode, and I'm gonna keep doing this. I'm gonna probably keep calling the same people over and over again. John, expect to be called many, many times. Once you're out of the military, I expect to call you a lot more because you can say things you couldn't normally say. And tell me maybe secrets. I had a secret clearance. I have all kinds of shit floating around in my head I'd like to talk about, but I'm not. There goes the NSA. They're listening to that too. So, definitely thank you, Layla, John, and Brittany for coming on and helping out with this show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you share the living shit out of the show like you all normally do anyways. Get your friends, subscribe it. If you want, post it on Reddit. This has been on Indiana Talks, which is Indiana's biggest online news network. They also do local sports, so find Gary Snyder and thank him for creating such a great network. This is also on the We Are Libertarians network, can be found at WAL-network.com. Yeah, we need to buy a better domain name, but that is a growing network of libertarian shows and things like that. Both my Creating Maya podcast and the Uncontrollables podcast, which you're currently listening to, are on there. So like, share, subscribe, and join us next week. Thanks.